Hello and welcome to Keep Left, the podcast that looks at the political spectrum from the left side of things. I'm John O'Connor, and we'll be looking at a few things that have happened over the last week or so. Not that much has happened. Oh, wait. I think there's been a few things. So it looks like it's President Biden out, Vice President Kamala Harris in. What does that mean? Why did it happen? And what does it change? I think the best way to look at it is to sort of break it down. Let's look at uh, was it a good idea for Biden to drop out? I'm going to take the minority view on this. I think a lot of people were really too quick to jump on the Biden out bandwagon. I honestly believe that if Democrats had held their nerve, if Democrats had not panicked, I firmly believe in my soul that Biden would have won. I honestly do. I think, again, if Biden had stuck to his guns and he had the support and he had done more events and people stood behind him, I honestly think he would have pulled out the victory at the end of the day. I think a lot of this was a media feeding frenzy. I think a lot of this had to do with people wanting drama, starved for drama. You know, not to belittle the circumstances of people in awful relationships, but it kind of reminded me of when, I know I did this when I was a lot younger, but when you're in a relationship that has a lot of emotional highs and lows, and then you go right into a relationship with someone who's stable, it can seem boring. And I know I did this. I know a lot of other people did this, where you break up with that person, not because there's anything wrong with that relationship, but it just seems boring. And I kind of almost get that sense with Biden that people just felt it was too boring, and we're waiting for some drama. And yeah, Biden is old, and Biden gapped on that in that debate, and so forth and so on. But I still think he could have pulled it out. I still think he's a perfectly capable president, and quite probably would be a perfectly capable president over 4 years. And maybe not. Maybe he's gotten some medical advice that says he probably couldn't have. Maybe the COVID is going to take more out of him than they initially thought he might have, or maybe he realized that the polls were bad. Who knows? We'll find out in a couple of years, I'm sure, when someone writes their book. But it's both sad and gratifying that Biden is a good person who realized that this was what was best for the country. Because I think a lot of people thought that Biden was too stubborn, especially people in the Republican Party thought that he was too stubborn to let go of anything. But he also strikes me as a sort of person who is dedicated to the right thing. Like, this is a guy who spent all of his life in public service. This is a guy who, regardless of whatever else you believe he is capable of or what he's up to, I don't think anyone can really argue that he doesn't believe in what he's done or what he do or what he can do. And this is a guy who knows how the game is played. Like, I think people forget that he is the one who literally shifted Obama into openly endorsing gay marriage in this country. Because Obama was just going to lie low on that issue until Biden gave a speech, or not a speech, gave an interview in which he came out in favor of it and forced Obama's hand, probably without permission from Obama. So he's very sly. He's very smart. He can read the political winds probably better than just about anyone. And I also wouldn't be surprised if in the back of his head, without anyone, advising him, that, even if a week ago he figured out that this is where it had to go, he wanted to wait till after the Republican convention because that was the best time to undercut everything the Republican Party was doing. They spent an entire week attacking Biden, and Biden is sitting there knowing that he's not actually going to be the candidate. And on top of that, he drops his letter on a Sunday, the day or two after the convention, the Republican convention, and within about an hour or two endorses Kamala Harris. And by doing that, erases almost any chance of chaos in the Democratic Party. Because an hour after that, the Clintons endorse her. And then all of the other potential other candidates start endorsing her. And the only person who actually gets caught out is Obama, because everyone else, he comes out endorsing like a quick primary or something, but everyone else who might have been involved with that endorses her, one after the other. And then the state delegates do, and pretty much within about 36 hours, she has enough delegates to get the nomination, and she's got it firmed up, and no one else is standing in her way. And that is just incredible. Like, if you told me that would have happened, a month ago, I wouldn't have believed you, because the Democrats are not known for being an organized party. One of my favorite Will Rogers quotes, and this is true back in the 30s, back in the 20s, whenever he said it, I'm not a member of any organized party. I'm a Democrat. That's just been true. And all of a sudden, the Democratic Party is organized. And not only that, they've raised over $100 million from small donations. Big donors are starting to give again. And there's an enthusiasm among the Democratic Party just over the last 24 hours. And all because of a decision that Biden made to give up power. And that is an extraordinarily difficult thing for anyone to do. And, moreover, it catches the Trump campaign flat-footed. Now, theoretically, they were preparing for this. They had books on all the possible candidates that they might have been looking at if Biden did drop out. But if that's the case, they aren't using any of that right now. Maybe they're keeping their powder dry for after the bump fades out and the enthusiasm fades a little bit, but it doesn't seem like they're using it, now. And the fact that they got caught having spent a ton of money on a convention, a ton of money attacking Biden, and now whining about it, as Trump has been doing on his Truth Social campaign and tweets, or truths, apologies. And the fact that he chose a vice presidential candidate, 39 years old, a first-term senator who has no idea what he's doing, who won't help carry Ohio or anything else, who's like not really even Appalachian, and is just another. He's helping wrapping up the whiny divorced dad vote, but Trump was already getting that vote anyway. Is just catching the Republicans with their pants down, their collective pants down. And so you have the situation in which all of a sudden the winds are picking up in the Democrats' direction. On top of that, you've had how many months? 6 months, a year of Republicans doing all of this conditioning of the electorate to say, Biden is too old. We can't have an old president. We can't have an old president. We can't have a president who can't finish a sentence, who meanders, who can't connect two thoughts together, who's too old, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now all of those arguments that they've been building up over the last 6 months can now be turned on Trump easily. And there's no defense to that from them. There just isn't. And, they're now stuck, hoisted on their own petard, literally. They're all the money that they've spent on Biden research and Biden opposition and commercials and everything else is just sitting there, not being able to be used. They got to recut a whole bunch of commercials about Harris, and now they've got to figure out how racist and how misogynistic they are going to be. They got away with a lot of that against Hillary Clinton, but they could kind of bury that in just being anti-Clinton because of Bill Clinton and the history there. But there's no history with Harris as much. They can cover up some of that with, California and being, wacko Californian or something. But that really only goes so far. and I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. The money's going to keep flowing to Trump as long as he keeps it close. But there's going to be the snowball effect where if Harris manages to get things a little bit ahead, like if it starts to break into 5 points, 6 points ahead, if it gets outside the margin of error, Trump is going to start seeing his money drying up, because a lot of his money right now is coming from these venture capitalists, the Peter Thiel, who literally handpicked and has been sponsoring J.D. Vance for the last 10 years, and picking up J.D. Vance's messes and funding his campaign for senator in Ohio, and and if he doesn't see, or Musk doesn't see, that Trump is a good investment, they're going to just turn off the money, because that's how they are. They're not going to throw good money after bad. And so, not to mention the fact that on a psychosocial or psychopolitical level, Biden beat Trump. And Trump knows that. And he's been spending the last 4 years trying to figure out how to get revenge on Biden. And dreaming of that day where he can get revenge on him. And, he's been blaming Biden for all of his legal troubles and his conviction and everything else. And now that's been pulled from him. And he's got to change his mindset to now attack Harris, who he hasn't been spending the last 4 years of his life blaming for his problems. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he pivots, if he can pivot that way. And it'll be interesting to see if his own mind can do that. And finally, he is the oldest candidate ever nominated by a major political party for president. Biden was younger 3.5 years ago. Trump is the oldest. He will be 80 by the time Election Day rolls around. Should someone that old be president? That's the question that will be asked. So strange times. We'll see how long this Harris bounce lasts. Some of the polls have her up by 2, some by 4, depending on what you're reading. They haven't done state-by-state polls, and it'll take like a couple days to sort of see how the polls shake out, if they shake out. In the meantime, I'll return in the next couple days back to Project 2025, because J.D. Vance has praised a lot of the policies that are in Project 2025, and I believe Peter Thiel has financed some of the organizations that have helped put Project 2025 together. So it's a fair bet that despite Trump's denials, Project 2025 is still in the mix. And Harris actually name-checked 2025 in her speech today, as we're talking July 23rd, 2024. So it's still a major thing to talk about. And I'm going to keep marching through it as we march towards Election Day. I'll also be taking a quick peek at French and British politics, as well as perhaps some Ukrainian politics, because I do want to talk about how Harris and Biden's foreign policy might differ, because I do think that Harris is slightly more skeptical of issues like Israel, but also might be a little bit more pro-Ukrainian than Biden is. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, look, keep calm, keep fighting, and keep left.